Okay, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Aster's flagship webinar on how to run your business effectively on Aster. I'm looking at the time now, and I think we'll allow maybe 1 or 2 more minutes for other people to join, and then we'll get started. Hi, Idris, Mohammed, and hi, Yusuf. Thanks, guys, for joining.
Maybe something's going wrong.
What do you think is going wrong? People are dropping off?
Yeah, people are joining and then dropping off.
Okay. Hi, Nora. So I think at the earlier part of the webinar, right, your audio and your videos would be disabled, right? So, however, we've made provision for Q&A. So there's a question and answer button on the screen where you can drop in any question or comment you have, right? But initially, it's just going to be me doing the speaking, just so that we maximize the time for everyone on here. All right, so good evening, everyone, and I'm just going to start right now. Thanks, everyone, for registering for our webinar, and thanks for joining us right in time. So, like I mentioned just a few seconds ago, before other people joined, I'll be leading the conversation today, and we've currently disabled the microphones and your videos just to make sure that the webinar runs smoothly. But if there are any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A window, and my colleagues are also on deck to address them. And at the end of the initial demo, we'll take all those questions. So I think without wasting any much time, I will just get right into it. But Jalil, Chamaka, can you guys hear me loud and clear? And is my screen up? My video is my video also working fine?
Yeah, loud and clear, and your screen share is coming through.
All right, fantastic. So seems a bit okay. I think this is starting now. So thanks again, once again, everyone. And the journey for Aster, I'll say, is one that is very close to heart for me, because for a very long time I've had this conviction that businesses are at the center of prosperity, and if we had more businesses growing and thriving, not just the individuals that start and build these businesses would be successful and benefit from it, but also individuals at large, societies at large will benefit from it. And that mere fact and that belief has driven me to for myself be an entrepreneur, and then also to support other entrepreneurs on this journey. So about 7 years ago, or roughly 6 years ago, I started my first company called Leonine. And during that process, I encountered several challenges along the way, and I got thinking that if I was encountering these challenges, many other businesses would also be facing similar challenges. And these challenges ranges from starting the business and getting that first client, to also running cost of the expenses of running a business, keeping up with the records, making payments to vendors, and all that other challenges that goes with that. And more importantly, ability to access tools that makes it easier to run businesses was also a challenge at the time. Running businesses is hard on its own, but in terms of having tools and solutions that makes it easier to run shouldn't be an hassle. And this was one of the main reasons that drove myself and my team, Abdul Jalil and others, to come about with the idea of building Aster. And we built Aster with one mission in mind, to empower businesses and entrepreneurs to start and grow thriving businesses. So that's why we're here today. And over the next, say, 20 to 30 minutes, I want to introduce you formally to Aster, right? And then also take any questions that some of you might have in terms of running your businesses, and then how you can also leverage the power of Aster to achieve that. And during the course of my speaking, please feel free to drop in your comments or questions in the Q&A section, and I'll be very happy to address them as we proceed. So to get started, the URL for Aster, like you already know, most of you have registered on Aster already, is aster-bi.com. And the BI in the Aster name stands for Business Intelligence. It's almost impossible for businesses to grow into the giant institutions, the valuable institutions that we see in today's market without a solid foundation of good financial management and, good business intelligence that helps them, understand what's happening in the business and make good decisions that, pans out well for the business. And previously, before now, this this tool was very limited to the very few businesses that had big balance sheets or huge capital in the bank that could, pay for the S&P, SAP of the world or the Microsoft Azure of the world or even the QuickBooks of the world. But with Asta today, we've brought this power even closer to the micro businesses, to the small and medium scale businesses that are just starting out with very limited capital, very limited resources, but they can get started for free and also leverage the power of Asta to grow their business to the extent where they're able to then add on other premium features that they can then start paying for. But the key difference here is that previously you needed to start paying almost immediately to use some of the power Asta is bringing today for free. And now with Asta, it's very easy for entrepreneurs, to get started without much ado. And I'm going to illustrate that today. So from the landing page, it's very easy to get started by just clicking here. But having already opened an account on Asta, I'm going to simply log in and then introduce you formally to Asta. Now, for every business, there are cycles. And then initially, once an entrepreneur starts, most times what's on the mind of the entrepreneurs is, can I survive? How can I survive? And then before the matter of growth starts to come in. However, one big mistake that a lot of business owners make is neglecting the financial management at the earlier stage of the business. And then this creates all sorts of problems later down the line. And with Asta, we want to change that narrative where we're having more proactive and more informed entrepreneurs, build the business in the right way. And as a matter of fact, this not only guarantees success in the sense or reduces the probability of failure. I won't say guarantees success because you could do everything right and then your business still fail. But at least it increases the odds of success. And what we've done with Asta is to give entrepreneurs like yourself a tool that allows you to manage the core operations of your business, the core financial operations. But over and above that, also empowers you with real-time intelligence that you can use to make decisions. And over time, we're going to continue to evolve this product in a way that gives you the power to combine both business operation and finances in one solution, right? But the starting point of Asta is for every business, you will have a dashboard, right, which is the first thing you see on my screen here. And on your dashboard, it will usually give you the summary of your finances, the summary of your business, how much revenue have you earned in XYZ period, maybe a month, 3 years, 1 year, all time revenue. Who are your customers, how much of your money is being held outside by your customers that you've sold to on credit and things like that. But also you also have access to reports, right, where you can see in more detailed fashion some of the things behind your business. Now, when you start your business from scratch, right, it's almost like the first thing you're looking for is where is the first revenue going to come from. But one thing that a lot of us tend to overlook very early on is the power of having what we call a client list. Now, a client list can be as basic as the list of the people that you've sold to in the past, or the people that you're currently speaking with to sell to, or potentially people that are in your target segment. So, for example, if you're a writer and you write for executives, maybe you're a ghostwriter, and then potential CEOs that can patronize your service are people that should be on your client list. Now, having this is so invaluable that we've seen, in situations where certain businesses maybe they even fail, they couldn't be successful or profitable in a given market due to competition or due to market events. But given that they had a robust customer list or client list, as we're calling it here, we were able to still get tremendous value from sale of that business. So your client list in itself is a value or is a treasure. I like to call it a treasure that can be valuable for your business. So every entrepreneur should not underestimate the importance of building a client list. Again, your client list would typically include your past customers, your current customers, and then your prospective customers. And this gives you opportunity to identify new targets that you can speak to for business and to also get recurring business. Now on Asta, it's as simple as going to the client's page, and then right from here you can add a new client by clicking on the green button at the top corner. Now for most businesses, particularly service focused businesses, your clientele might either be individuals that just like an individual person that's not attached to any organization per se, or it might be an organization, a B2B type of business where you're selling to companies like MTN, Dangote Cement, and whatnot. Whichever the case is, you can add whatever kinds of clients. If it's an individual client, you can simply enter the first and last name, as well as the email address and phone numbers. These are critical information that you want to have for future engagement with your customer, either sending them invoices, sending them proposals, or your service list, or other information. And it's as simple as entering the name. So, for example, I could enter a client name here as simple as typing first and last name, and then entering an email address for the same client, and then you could also enter the phone number. Now, pay attention to the fact that entering the email address or phone number is not compulsory. So, if you don't have that information, or if you don't intend to send emails or invoices to the customer via email, then you can actually skip this information, or you can enter the names and maybe come back later to update it. For now, I'm just going to do the first, last name, and then the email address. And once you save that, you will see that list come up on your list of clients. You can also add an organization in the same way by coming here, and I can enter an organization here. Say, for example, Access Bank PLC, which happens to be in the financial services. You can simply search in the industry, and then that gives you a list of all the industries within the system, and you can choose from that. And then I can enter an email address as well. And once that is done, you can save it. So as simple as that, you can add clients and start building your client list. Again, having a client list should be non-negotiable for entrepreneurs, because this opens a world of opportunities. When we speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, one of the biggest problems that we hear entrepreneurs say they have is creating or finding new customers. And now finding new customers becomes more difficult if you don't have a system that supports that process. And that's why having and managing your clients on Aster is a very powerful tool to use. And again, you can leverage that tool by seeing the individual clients as well as your organization clients. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a service list or your product list. Now, for most businesses or most entrepreneurs, we know we want to start a business. We have the skills, whether we've gone to school or we've worked and we have that experience. But most times, we also don't take that time to articulate and decide on, okay, what exactly am I offering? What am I not offering? And what is the standard price or the range of prices that I'm going to use? Having that clarity in your mind, as basic as it sounds, be very helpful when you're speaking with potential clients or when you're negotiating on deals in terms of what price am I closing this, or what scope am I going to be offering for this. So again, having your price list or your product list or your service list is also very powerful. Now, this does not imply that whatever you set as the price, for example, is the price that you must always offer. There's always room to negotiate. Maybe there's a new feature, or there's some different in scope that might warrant a different pricing. However, what this just gives you is a benchmark, a standard that says, okay, you can go out and bring in this business, and it's easier to offer a price or offer the different services that you offer. And for that, it's as simple again as coming to the product and services button under the financial operations, and then selecting a new product or service. Now, currently at Aster, we're building first for service-focused businesses. So a lot of the examples I'll be giving will be examples that fits into the service narration. However, even product entrepreneurs can also leverage Aster, and it's as simple as going to the product tab and adding whatever product you want to add. But for now, let's work with the services. And then here I'm going to enter brokerage services as the new service I'm adding here. You can enter a description here. It's not compulsory to do, but again, we've built Aster not just for the entrepreneur, but for the entrepreneur and your team. So you can also add your staff. And when you have more than one person using the tool, then it makes sense to have certain descriptions that makes it easy for people to figure things out or to understand how to use the tool. So here, this I might say providing intermediary services between buyers and sellers of art. Right? It can be very basic. It can be very basic, as simple as this. The simpler, the better. Right? And then in terms of category, you can also add categories. So I already have a category for brokerage services, and then I'm going to include this. Now, this might seem like a lot of work initially, but the whole idea is for you to get the right information and intelligence you need to run your business. You need to take out time to set the right foundation. And what we're doing here is setting that foundation. Once you do it once, you never have to go back to do this. I usually recommend that entrepreneurs take out maybe an hour, a few minutes, or even more if necessary, to decide on what are the different services we want to offer, under what categories would you say they fit into, what prices do you want to start with. And again, with pricing, can experiment with the price. As you start your business, you start negotiating, there are different pricing strategies. There's no one fit all strategy. So depending on your clientele, depending on your market, depending on your skill set, you can price differently. But ultimately, you want to price your product in a way that it maximizes your entire revenue. So if raising your price is going to be what maximizes your revenue, because you can then have a lot of people paying that price, then that's what you will do. But if minimizing it to give you a critical mass is also the strategy that works for you, then you also do that. So there's no hard and fast rule to this, but having a standard can be very powerful for your business. So once you do that, you can then come in here and specify, for example, this is a 10 million naira fee. For different businesses, your pricing might be based on the product piece or a box or service or per hour if you're billing based on time, or some of these other options. We've made different provisions for that. For this, it's per service, so I'll choose per service. And once you do that, it's there. And then tax is a very critical aspect of running businesses anywhere in the world. And there's a common saying that apart from death, the only other confirmed prophecy or certainty is taxes. It's death and taxes. So you can be sure that taxes are always going to come for you as you grow your business. So you can also build in your VAT. If your pricing includes VAT, then you can choose a VAT inclusive VAT. If it's excluding VAT, which means you're going to add your VAT to the price you've stated, then you can choose VAT exclusive. And if you're not charging VAT at all, because there are some businesses that are exempted or certain sectors are exempted, then you don't need to choose anything here. It's not a compulsory field. However, if you're going to be charging, then you can simply choose that and then save. And with that, you would have added a new service so that when you now want to either send your service list to your potential customers to see what you offer or the prices you offer, it's easy for you to do that. And then when you want to also bill the clients, it's also easy for you to do. Now, once you've set your client list and your product list, which will be evolving, because obviously your client list should be increasing on a daily basis, right? However, your product list might not increase that much. So once you do it once, it serves you over a period. You can then start doing things like issuing invoices to your customer, right? And then for invoices, it's important to make sure that every information that your customer needs to be able to get the comfort and the information they need to settle your bill is done. And that's why we have the configure button here, where you can add your bank account number And we also added this very powerful and useful feature called the payment link, so that when you send out an invoice to a customer, just click on the invoice and settle it directly from there, from that particular window. Right? We partner with Paystack to enable this for our entrepreneurs. The advantage of this is that immediately your customer does this, it records it on Aster as a collection, which means you've collected cash, and then it also sends them a receipt and a thank you note. And that can be very valuable for your customer relationship. You can add multiple accounts to your business, and then when you issue invoices, you can choose which of the accounts you want to put on the invoice. Right. So once you do this, you can save, and then it's as easy as going here to issue your first invoice. Now, from here, I can choose any of my existing customers on the list, right? And then I can choose any of my existing customers, and if the customer I want to bill is not here, I can simply add a new customer as well. So you can add new customer on the go, right? And then once you do that, um, if I wanted to add a staff to this, for example, I can add a staff here. I'm not going to put any email for this. I'll simply say save. And once you do that, that goes in. And then for the payment, our recommended method for payment is the payment link, because that's just more efficient in today's world. And then you can choose the bank. If you have more than one bank account, you can select the one you want. If not, you can choose the default. Now, the next thing is to put in a description, and it's usually helpful to just put a description so whoever is getting the invoice knows exactly what they're getting the invoice for. So being fees for brokerage services, for example, might be the description that one uses here. And then you can then choose the fees. Again, we've already added some products, but even if you hadn't added a product before or service, you can simply choose add new here, and then that will enable you quickly add it on the fly, and it records it for future purpose. Now, like I mentioned, the prices that you put in your product list is just a standard or a benchmark. If you decide that you want to change it, you can always come here and say add new price, and then instead of this 5 million, for example, I can change this to 10 million, and then I can also set the type and any other thing, then save it. And then it takes you back into the invoice. And now I can simply either save and send. Now, the only time I choose save and send is if the client I'm sending to has an email address. If there's no email address, I can simply save and close. And then that will get me my invoice preview here. You can see the invoice here. This is the invoice we just issued. And for those that maybe you want to send this on WhatsApp, or you want to send it, or you want to even print it out and take it to the client, you can just save the invoice and share. If you're doing it on your phone, you can easily send on WhatsApp or iMessage or whatever other messaging app, and then you can share with the client. But now this is recorded. And the power of sending invoices or recording this is it also starts to help you track your revenue. So at every point in time, every entrepreneur should be able to say that today I've earned X amount of revenue, or this month I've earned X amount of revenue, or last year I made X amount, and so on and so forth. So by coming to Aster to record your invoices or your sales, it also empowers you to then go into your dashboard, and in real time you will see how much revenue you've earned. Right now we can see that this is already showing the growth. If I wanted to see for just 1 month, I will say that this was the invoice I just issued today, the 10 million, and then you can see that it's for brokerage services. And you see all the intelligence in real time for you to leverage. We've also built in, over and above the revenue, the expenses. Expenses is one major area that gives early stage entrepreneurs a lot of headache, because they don't have the tools to keep track of expenses. And so even if you're performing very well and making all the revenue, but you're not keeping control of your expenses, then at the end of the day, you might still end up making losses. So managing your expenses cannot be overemphasized. And that's why we added the expense product to Aster to make this easier for entrepreneurs to manage. Now, for every businesses, you have operating expenses like salaries, raw materials, and co. But you also have capital expenses like buying a new plant or buying a generator or buying a building or buying a computer or some of these other long-term assets, right? So we've made default categories, so you don't have to worry yourself about creating those. If you go into the configure tab of your Aster page, you can simply enable the categorization, and that will create default line items for you that you can leverage for keeping your records. You can also keep records of your vendors. It's not enough for you to manage your clients, the people that pay you. It's also important for you to manage your vendors, the people that are taking your money, so that you can also negotiate for better terms. You can manage them in a way, and you can actually start building the foundation of a successful and a great business. So we have that vendors list here. And for every vendor you add, you can also keep tabs of their bank details. You can add their bank account, so it's easier for you to pay. Like I mentioned, one of our goals with Asta is that we want to bring both business and finance under umbrella to make it easier for you to manage, right? So again, we're already laying the building blocks for all that. So with expenses, once you go into the history tab, you can then start recording new expense. And then for every expense, you can enter whatever amount you're paying for. So for example, if you have rent that you pay annually, and if it includes withholding tax or VAT, you can enable these boxes. If not, you can just leave them out. And then you can enter the description as maybe annual rent, for example. If you have the vendor details, you can add it here. If it's not already there, you can add a new vendor. If not, you can just also leave it blank if you like, if you don't want to put anything. If you haven't made the payment for the expense, then that means it's outstanding. You're still owing somebody. But if you've paid for it or you've partially paid, then you can select that. If it's partially, you have to enter the amount that was paid. If it's fully paid, you don't need to enter anything. The system automatically calculates what amount would have been paid, and then you can then choose the expense type. So if the expense type doesn't exist, you can simply create a new one and say, for example, I'll click in here and say rent. You can enter a description if you like, or you can also leave that. And then under this, I can choose the rent category here and then save it. So that's as simple as that. And once you do that, it records your expenses, and you can now see the rent showing up there as that. Now, if I go into my report, I should be able to see what my profitability is on a continuous basis. But let's start with the revenues. So that I have my revenue here, and I can see the report that I sold. For 2024, we can see the 10 million revenue that we sold. For 2023, the revenue was 60 million. So at every point in time, you know how your business is doing. You're measuring the key metrics that matter, and you can get those information readily at your fingertips. Now, we can also see other reports like what are the collections we've made. One big problem we also notice speaking with entrepreneurs is while some businesses are selling, some of them sell on credit where you agree with your customer that okay, you pay 50% now and 50% later, and sometimes it becomes a challenge to collect, or maybe it's being delayed. So how do you manage that? Asta also helps with that because you can keep tabs of your collections, and then if there's any invoice that maybe the person hasn't paid, it's very easy to also send reminders, right? So for example, if this invoice hasn't been settled, I can come here and click on this button and say send to client again to follow up, right? So that's very useful. So I'll quickly go back to the report and then show you some of the other reports you can see. There's something we call receivables, right? Another term for this is debtors, people that own your business. So out of the bat, you can see all the invoices that you've issued. You can see the customer that you send those invoices to. You can see which of your staff member, if you've added other staff or that works with other team members to Aster, you can also see who is issuing the invoice. Are you the one issuing it yourself, or is it somebody else, or is it a finance person? You can see the due date, when was the invoice due for payment, and then whether it's overdue and by how much. So your goal should be having very little amount overdue or outstanding. So if you come and you see that there's an invoice that's still outstanding, then off the bat you can simply say, oh, this money has been paid, it's no longer outstanding, and I can say record payment, and that will take you to the record payment page, and then I can say the entire 5K has been settled. And if you want to send a receipt to this client and a thank you note, then you can leave this button checked. Otherwise, if you don't want to send, if you just want to record it, then you can deselect. Right, and then once you do that, you save it, and then it's recorded. Right. So that's how you can use the receivables page. Now I can refresh this report now just to make sure that that last transaction has been reflected, and you can see that it's no longer showing as outstanding. So you have this receivables, and it's very helpful in keeping tabs and making sure that your business has the right cash flows to work with. Sometimes when businesses fail, they fail not because they don't have clients or because they have too much expenses. Sometimes they fail just because they are not collecting as fast as they should be collecting. They are doing the services, they are rendering the accounts, or they are creating those revenues, but they are not collecting as fast as they should. And that in itself can kill a business. So you want to make sure that you're on top of that as well. And then finally, some of the other reports you have like taxes, right? Knowing your VAT, your withholding tax, and all that is very important for businesses. Like I mentioned, apart from death, the next certain thing that we can be sure is coming is your taxes. So you want to make sure that you're managing that as well. And then we also have financial statements. Now, with financial statement, what this means is that you can see your your revenue, your expenses, and your profit at a glance, right? And every business owner should have this because it helps you plan, it helps you execute, it helps you make better decisions, and it pretty much guarantees or reduces your probability of failure, right? So it's very important that you have that, and you can see this in different layers. You can break down the operating expense if you want to see where the money is going into. You can also expand the revenue if you want to see where the money is coming from. And you can see it across different periods for last year, for the current period, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm sure some of you might be thinking about, yeah, this Asta is nice, but can I afford this, or is it right for my business now? Like I mentioned, some of these building blocks, you don't have to wait till you're a big company to do it because it puts you at the back foot. And on the other hand, previously, this power was not accessible by average entrepreneur or the average business because you have to pay several dollars to acquire it. You have to, have several types of skills. But with Asta, we've made it very user friendly. We've made it free for new businesses that are just starting out. Obviously, there's a premium package, but you can use Asta for as long as possible to you get to a stage where you're already growing. You have several tens or hundreds of clients, and then at that point, you can then decide, okay, you want to add certain features and start paying a premium. So for that reason, I would just like to quickly show the different plans we have before I check if there are any comments or questions. Please remember to drop your questions in the Q&A box, and you can start dropping your questions now. So once I'm done with this, I would go over to the question side and take your questions. So in terms of the subscription or the different plans for this particular business, you can see that there's an active premium plan for this. You can have multiple plans depending on how many people are on your team that you want to have access to this. For this particular business, is just one plan, and then you can also see the full plans. For today, we only have three plans. The free plan, which everybody can start with, right? And once you have a free plan, it gives you ability to record unlimited product services clients, right? You can have one user for free, but you can only issue up to 100 invoices. And we've done this because we believe that when businesses start out, you don't want to burden yourself with too much cost. So when you have less than 100 invoices, you're still very early, you're growing. But once you start issuing over 100 invoices, then we can see that you're already growing. And at that point, it makes sense to consider, you know, subscribing for the basic or the premium plan. Now, our plans are built in Naira because we know the situation of the country with the exchange rate, and we don't want to overburden our entrepreneurs with this additional headache to think of. So we price in Naira, and we also price in a very affordable rate of less than 10,000 Naira for the basic plan, and for the premium plan, roughly 20,000 Naira per month, right? So that's those are the plans. You can see more detail in terms of what you gives you access to and whatnot here. For the analytics on the free plan, you have the dashboard for free. You have the revenue reports for free. Some of the other advanced reports are on the basic plan and the premium plan as well. And that's pretty much a quick tour on Aster. right? And again, we have the back of entrepreneurs. We're building this to make sure that we increase the odds of entrepreneurs starting and growing, thriving business, and we see it as our day-to-day job in removing obstacles from the front of entrepreneurs like yourself. So thanks a lot for joining again, and thanks for your patience over the last couple of minutes. So now I would open the floor for questions, comments, or any other feedback. So you can drop your comments in the box. And if you prefer to speak, maybe you can simply raise your hand and they would permit you to ask your questions um, vocally. Okay, I can see Adidja's hand up. So can someone please enable Adidja's mic so she can ask a question? Chabaka, I mean, can you guys enable Adidja's mic?
Um, um,
Okay, Adidja, I think you have the mic now. Go ahead.
good evening, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I
Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you, Khadija. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I would like to. Let me first commend you for the work. It's a good one. May Allah put baraka in it, and may you continue to grow in strength. Okay, so my questions revolve around the way to navigate the app, the website, and then some other recommendations from me, please. So the first
Okay.
one is I would like to know if this payment link about this payment link. I want to know if it is in cash.
Okay.
Um, which of those features can be used to record that? Because we have the bank accounts, then the payment link recommended. I don't know if that payment link recommended is relating to cash. If you are receiving in
Okay.
cash, it's
Okay.
not.
All right. All right. Thanks a lot for that question. So, I mean, in terms of navigation, so I'll say if you're selling in cash, right, then in that case, it doesn't matter whether you use the payment link or not. You can still use it, and then you're just sending the invoice. When you send out invoice, it serves multiple purposes. So one purpose of the invoice is obviously you give the client information that they need to use to make payments to you. How much are they owing, which bank account, your tax number, or whatever else. But it also helps you keep your records because every invoice you issue is like a record of a sales that's taking place, right? So if you're in a business where most of your sales is maybe in cash and then you don't need to use the payment link to transfer or whatever else, then you can still record the invoice and just save and close. So you don't need to send it to the client if they already have the information and or they're in front of you and they've given you cash, for example, right? But once you use it, then in that case, you don't need to send them an email. You just save it. You record it for the purpose of keeping track of your sales, so that then when you're looking at your reports, even though you've collected cash, you can see that the revenue is sitting there. And then you can also then send the thank you receipt to the client by saying, okay, cash collected or cash paid, right? So that's also possible. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, but I still have some other questions,
Please go ahead.
or maybe
Go ahead.
recommendations.
Okay.
Okay, now as regards using the app, is it possible for us to have a reminder to update transactions? Because I could remember I used an app, I can't remember the name now.
Okay.
At times I get so busy and I don't remember to do some things. But when it's like 5 or 6 in the evening, you see this message popping up on that app, and then it tells you update your transactions or close account or something like that. So
Yes.
I don't know if it's actually possible to.
Yes. I think that's a very solid recommendation of feedback, and it's something that we actually do have on our roadmap, whereby we're sending out push notifications. And it's not just any push notification, actually intelligent notifications that tells you that, okay, you sent out this invoice last week, you haven't recorded any payment. Do you need to send the reminder invoice, or do you need to record the cash? So we're working on that, and I expect that we would have that feature up and running very soon. Jalil, I don't know if you wanted to add to that. Did you want to say something?
No, nothing extra to add, but it's something that we're thinking about and we'll be bringing that feature very soon.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, any other comments or questions?
I just have one more question, please.
Please go ahead.
Okay, the report section.
Yeah.
I noticed that it only analyzes the expenses. It doesn't analyze the income. Is that
No,
also possible?
no, it
I don't know.
analyzes the income as well. So I'm just going to quickly show. It analyzes both expenses, income, and even other areas as well. So if you go into the report section, this is the income. Now, depending on how much income you've gotten, you will see the detail. But if you look here, you can see that this is invoice count by the clients, which customers are paying you. You can also see by service or by product. So you can see the invoice count, you can see the revenue. So it tells you this amount came from brokerage services, this amount came from product one, this amount came from product two. So it also analyzes that, and if you go to the revenue, important thing is just go to the report under revenue, you'll see all the details. And same thing for expense. If you go to the expense report, you will see all the details if you scroll down. And then on the income statement itself is another view that you can see your profitability at a glance, and you can see the details. You can always expand the revenue. So now for revenue, it's just one main type. These are the different products. But for expense, there are some expenses that are operating, there are others that are not operating. Then you also have tax expense as well. So it's a lot more details, but you also have the breakdown of revenue.
Okay.
Yeah?
I still have one more question from the presentation.
Okay, go ahead.
You said over for the free plan, you can only add 100 invoices. Do you mean per day or for the whole free plan?
Are there people that are issuing 100 invoices per day in service business? I want to be in that service business. And any business that is issuing 100 invoices per day should most likely be on a premium plan. But what we meant by the 100 is actually over a period, not in one day, right? So once you've issued up to 100 invoices across board, then that means you're like an advanced business. You've grown your business to a particular stage. And at that stage, we usually encourage entrepreneurs to subscribe for maybe our basic plan or maybe the premium plan. But it's not in a day, it's over a period.
Over a period. So it means that I should try and know how to match my my invoices and expenses so that I don't use it up within a short while.
No, what you should do is just make sure you're growing your business and you're generating as much cash flow so that when it's time to subscribe, you won't have a problem subscribing. That's what I want to get you to. A stage where you're growing and thriving, and then you can pay us to continue to support you. Because if not, we might be out of business. I won't be able to support you again. So yeah.
Okay, and the last part is going to be let me say it's one thing I noticed while I was using the app, and I think I should just share it.
Okay.
I run a business that has like there are mini segment too. They're not really elaborate ones, but I can say they are into like 3 segments. So I used to think that there is this part of my business that I should focus on, that if I see any kind of fund, I should spend it on it and like that. So, but
Yes.
now when I started using the Aster by stuff, I noticed that in actual fact, that part of my business that I thought is the the best of them is
Well,
actually the one that is not as
yes.
good as the other. So
Yes.
so at that point I felt I need to concentrate on the other parts. So
Yeah.
I was only able to get that while I started
Using Asta.
analyzing income and all that through the app. So I think it's a good one. It's really a good one. And
Yeah.
I will want to commend you, and I pray that Allah will continue to strengthen you. Thank you
Thank
so much. Thanks for
thank Thanks a lot for the questions and the feedback. Much appreciated. Thanks a lot. We appreciate that. I don't know if there's any other question from the Q&A or if there's any other person that wants to jump in. You can raise your hand. I think we have maybe a few less than 10 minutes more to take more questions or comments if there are any. Otherwise, if there are no further questions, I don't know if Jalil or Chamaka, if you guys want to add anything to the conversation at this stage, if there are no further questions from the attendees. Okay, Sadiq, I'm going to enable you now, Sadiq. All right, Sadiq, go ahead. You can unmute yourself, Sadiq, and then speak. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Ani.
Hi, good evening, Sadiq.
Actually, I'm new here. I'm just opportune to be part of this webinar.
Okay.
So I don't have any experience about the app, but I will just comment that it's indeed what I've seen. It's indeed a good medium, a tools that has a good tracking feature. Because
Okay.
recently I just finished an entrepreneurship program.
Okay.
And there has been an assignment like there should be some digital tools that can help you keep track all your records and all this and that. So,
Yes.
but with this, I could believe this could really help my business. It's indeed a good work, a kudos work to be done.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for that feedback, Sadiq. And please do not hesitate to refer us to some of your colleagues that just completed the program with you so that they also benefit from the tool. Yeah.
I will recommend it. Indeed, I will recommend it.
All right. Thanks a lot for that feedback. Okay. So I don't know if there's anything else from anyone. Okay, Jelly, do you want to jump in?
I added one question in the Q&A. So let me just read it out. I said, if I send an invoice to a customer through Aster, how will they receive it? And a follow-up to that is, can I share my invoice to my customer on WhatsApp?
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot for that. So if you send an invoice to your customer on Aster, if you've added the email, so for now the main way they'll receive it will be through an email, right? When you send the invoice. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second, just so that at least you have a view of that right now on this call. A second. So I'm going to share my screen in a second now so you can see. Okay. So this is how it's going to look like. Now, one important thing is that we know for most entrepreneurs, they are now very mobile, and it's almost like mobile first or, mobile preferred. So what we've done is to make sure that Aster also works seamlessly on mobile, right? So if you're sending your invoice if you send your invoice and you've added the email address, they will get an email from Aster in showing that the name of your business will be in the subject saying invoice from, for example, the name of your business, whatever it is, and then it will address your client in a similar fashion like this, telling them what they're getting the invoice for, who sent the invoice, and then the details of the invoice. So how much is billed? If they had paid before, so for example, let's say this is a reminder invoice, like this one is, it will show you any amount that they have paid before and what the balance due is. There will also be an attachment that they will get, which will be a PDF file that will show them the invoice details. So for their clients that maybe wants to print out, they can always use that as well to print out the invoice. So the invoice will look like this. So the face of the invoice, this place here is for your own logo, not Aster's logo. However, if you've not added your company logo, instead of it being blank, Aster's logo comes up there. But once you add your logo into this, and I recommend you add that very quickly, then your logo will come up here. Adding your logo is very straightforward. I'm going to show you very quickly how to do that. So if you come into the admin page here, right, under organization, you see a button here to add your logo, and you can simply just use that to add your logo. Now, so that's how your client gets the invoice. But if your clients don't use email or you prefer not to send emails to them, then you can always save the invoice on your phone or on your PC and send it through other channels, other messaging channels, by just attaching it the way you would attach any other file, right, and send it to them. If you were sending from your phone, then you can easily just send from WhatsApp, right from Aster. Just say share via WhatsApp or share via message, and then it goes to them. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So any other comment, question? We still have about less than 5 minutes, so I'm happy to take any more questions or comments. And then if there are no more questions at this stage, I would just like to thank everyone for joining. And we wish we're rooting for you guys in running your business and building successful businesses. And please do not hesitate to let us know if there's anything else that you think we should be thinking about, or if there are feedbacks or comments that you have for us. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us through our different channels. So thank you once again, everyone, and then I would like to draw the meeting to an end at this point. Bye. So have a good. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, bye, everyone.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.